Okay, so I want to talk about facilitative processes in construction industry and how they work despite some of the conditions that exist in the construction industry, which is still fairly old-fashioned to some degree. So I work for an electrical company installing underground cabling, and we have a group of 70 people working on night shift. So the environment's quite harsh. The work is very difficult and physical. It's a greenfields operation, which means that it's a brand new installation. So there's lots of dirt and dust, and the environment's actually quite difficult to work in. On top of night shift as well. So, and we have drawn comparisons between our group and the groups that function on day shift. They have other difficulties which makes their job harder, and so their performance would naturally be expected to be less, but the experience has shown, my experience in the construction industry has shown that night shift is traditionally much less effective than day shift. So I use facilitative processes in terms of growing the group, giving them empowerment, enabling them to achieve something that they come to work not only to achieve an income, but they actually, all people go to work to achieve a decent result at the end of the day. And many things in work take away from that achievement, and what we try to do, my supervisor partner and I, who we both have a very similar objective in terms of being functionally very high performing with our group, and also but to give them a sense of enjoyment and satisfaction at the end of the day, while dealing with all the other issues around safety and health and so forth with the group. Most of the people are fairly young, and we do have older people in the group, but they would be the minority. And the people, some are local, some are fly in, fly out, some know each other well, some don't, and you get that full spectrum of people in a group of around 70. There's quite a lot of characters, and there are those who need different things to motivate them. And my partner Scotty and I, we work on precisely that, on motivation, on dealing with issues, facilitating outcome for them as well as for ourselves.
Can you give me an example of a facilitated process that you might use, or how your day might look?
Okay.
Night might look, sorry.
Yep. Our day starts with preparation. Scotty and I both go into work early, and we prepare everything so that we appear to be well prepared when we turn up. So that's always a good thing. We use motivational things, tools like discussing things that are not related to necessarily the work that we're doing, but they might be, say, the performance of animals or some non-related things that give story to what we do, but also generate parallels in some of the things that we do. Like, one of the funniest things that Scotty's come up with is how fast do you have to swim to get away from a great white shark. The fundamentals of it are that it's safety oriented. You need to know this if you're going to go swimming with a great white shark, because he's going to eat you if you don't. So you need to swim at 65 kilometres an hour because they attack at 64. It brings humour into the workplace, and at the beginning of the day that's always good. It brings a bit of laughter, it brings a bit of sharing of experience, it brings quirky things into the workplace which are not necessarily related to what we're there to do, but also gives us an opportunity to talk with humour about safety, what we're asking them to do for the night, those sorts of things, how much effort they might need to put into concentrating because there are some difficult circumstances with the job, those sorts of things. So we get their minds tuned in and bring their whole selves into the job before we even get started. So those are some of the little things that we do. Some of the other things we do is to look after them individually as well as in a group. So there'll always be circumstances in a group of 70 where an individual's not as functional as they normally are. So we notice these things. It's important that we do that.
So, how does specifically the work that you've studied with Energy Global, how does that fit into what you were talking about?
I think the most important thing is a feeling of caring for the group and being in that space with them. And I think noticing what might be missing to achieve, the things that we're setting them to do.
So those are qualities that are specifically in stage 2, in the stage 2 work?
Yep, definitely.
Can you remember anything about that you might have cottoned on to in the stage 2 program that might be relevant?
Being aware of people's demeanour, so actually presencing myself to the people in the room, surrounding myself with the feeling that that they bring. So and then I start to notice things that are different, or things that are missing. So generating some things that are missing, like if there's no enthusiasm in the group, so we might shift some energy by changing, telling jokes or strange stories. And one of the things I do, which I brought specifically to the group, was to ask them to tell stories about themselves within the group. Individually, each night one person stands up and tells a story that he's prepared about himself that he thinks nobody else in the group knows. So there's some bonding there around discovery and disclosure, which are, that's actually quite opening. So the group opens up to these things, and then they become bonded much more clearly with each other because they now know something that they didn't and might not otherwise know within the group about each other. So that's been an interesting exploration.
Tell us about the increase in productivity. You had it at a certain percentage.
Yeah, we have, what we do is we calculate the number of metres of cable we pull per person per night. And you can do that if you're doing the same sort of cable pull, and often we double shift, which is like day shift comes in, does a certain amount of work on one part of the job, and we'll continue that through night shift. So we have an easily drawable comparison between day shift and night shift, and we would regularly deliver about 140, up to 140%. Sometimes it's less, sometimes we don't make 100% of what day shift do because there are circumstances that change, from one shift to another. But we regularly outperform the same number of people per metre, on day shift. So it tells me that because we regularly do that there's something we're doing that's quite different. And that's quite exciting. Very gratifying. It gives us encouragement to continue to do what we do.
And what sort of feedback about the processes that you're using do you get from different sorts of people? Like just do people find it unusual or new or different, and how do they react to those?
Okay, some of the feedback that we were given are things around people commenting how different it is, because a lot of the guys have worked on day shift before, so they've worked with the other different supervisors who have different methodologies, and a lot of them are quite traditional. That is, for me anyway, that's about, instead of encouraging, is about, pushing and forcing, which is not how we like to work, Scotty and I, and that's the other key thing, I guess, is that we agree as a production team and the supervisors on that team, the two of us agree that this is the best method that we can find, and we contribute to each other's method as well, which is actually quite good. That works too. And we get comments back from our direct supervision as well, that we're doing a great job, and that's they encourage us that way. And we get information back from our team as well, from some of the leaders, the leading hands, and some of the older guys in particular who worked elsewhere will come back and say, look, it's clear that you guys have got a process that is great to work with, and we enjoy working here. We don't want to go and work on day shift again. Yeah.
Is it normal to spend so much time talking before a shift? I mean, across the industry.
Yes, it is quite common to hold pre-start meetings. That's a very common thing in the industry. However, most of the pre-start meetings are around reading safety bulletins, discussing issues, which is normally about negative issues. And while we do discuss those, we try always to balance that out with positive affirmation about what we did well as what could we do better? How can we change things to make it better? How can we do things safer? Those sorts of questions we ask a lot.
And what is the general culture like? What does it feel like as the night's progression? Like the feeling between people and the team?
Yeah, there's a lot of good communication, that quality communication. A lot of people will come to me. In fact, I've had recently a number of examples where a crew member will come to me and say, "Oh, so and so is not really up to it tonight. There's something going on for him. Maybe you need to talk to him." So we get that kind of communication as well. So it's not just me noticing. I've actually got the whole team, and we encourage that all. We tell them that we are open to anything at all that is affecting your safety, the feeling around doing your work, anything like that at all. If you're bringing something from home, it's really important that if that's going to affect your night's work, that we know about that so that we can compensate in some way. We might give you a lesser job or a job that requires perhaps a different skill set to give you some sort of respite from what's going on.
Awesome. Is there anything else that comes to mind that might be, because we're going to cut this whole thing up, that might be relevant specifically about either Dave's books, or the program, or any of the particular leaders that you might? Well, I guess that's all stuff. Just anything at all.
Okay. I guess a lot of my growth in the Energy program has been around recognising the characteristics in others, in Dale and the other course presenters who have other people's interest at heart. It's about helping others develop themselves. So and that's been very clear to me about not only that process for me and what that development has done for me, but how I can actually use those processes to assist others to develop themselves as well. So that's quite important, and we do a lot of work with that. The company's been really good in terms of offering apprenticeships to some of the older trades assistants. So now we're going to have some 30 apprentices for the project, and that's very encouraging because they haven't gone through a group training scheme. They've actually taken it on themselves, probably for financial reasons more than any other, but nevertheless it's still a good process because we control it, and that means that people like myself who are interested can actually get involved quite deeply with those people and help them to find a new way of being, or to be the best person they can be, those sorts of things, that's a lot of the stuff that I've got out of the Energy project.
That sounds awesome. Really awesome. Should we have a little